Aterian PLC listed on the main market of the London Stock Exchange in October 2022. It's a critical and strategic metal-focused exploration and development company, and much has been achieved since that initial public offering. I'm delighted to be joined by the Chief Executive, Simon Rowlandson. So Simon, before we talk about the assets, your portfolio is mainly based in Rwanda and Morocco. And how would you describe these mining jurisdictions? Do you foresee any problems, or are the foundations that you've laid are good for cordial, symbiotic relations?
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for having me on. We started in Rwanda, and then we acquired the assets in Morocco, and they're both very different jurisdictions, but we find both of them to be extremely user-friendly. We're welcome in both countries, and we're sort of progressing nicely with the projects. Rwanda in Central Africa, it's a small country, and it's one of those places that's always been overlooked by the exploration community. It sort of sits nestled between the DRC and Tanzania, which host these mega deposits. And the history of Rwanda has always been sort of artisanal mining, focusing on coltan, the tantalum niobium minerals, and extracted out just through small scale artisanal mining. And it's just recently changed, because in the last 12 months or so, it's come to recognition that there's a huge opportunity there for being the next new African lithium province, if you like. Completely different to Morocco. Morocco is more established. It has the services in country. It's got very good infrastructure, and it's just a wonderful place to explore and move around in.
So you say there that the Rwanda has been overlooked in the past. So how was it that Rwanda came into your sights? How did you know about the assets there?
It was originally through Charles Bray, the chairman of the company. This company has been in existence for quite a period of time now, but it was only in the last year that it's been referred to as Aterian PLC. Prior to that, it was East Inco Mining and Exploration, and at that time it had coal assets that they were exploring in Nigeria. And when Charles came on board, he wanted to shift away from that emphasis on the coal, and through some relationships that he had in Rwanda, we saw that as an opportunity. So the company had already moved into the country, into Rwanda, and I joined about a year later. And it's kind of grown, and it's allowed us to be one of the first sort of international explorers in the country, because still, even now, it's quite underdeveloped in terms of its exploration reach. But that's going to change, I think, over the next few months. I think there's gathering interest, because it's a lithium province, that you're going to see more explorers come in. And piggybacking on the news we had with the Rio Tinto JV, I think it's going to thrust Rwanda into people's sort of gaze when they're looking for lithium opportunities in Africa now.
Okay, so congratulations on having that relationship with Rio Tinto. How symbiotic is this relationship, and who really is calling the shots?
Oh, look, Rio are definitely the operators and the managers on the ground, but that's what we wanted. Because we're a small company and we took on Morocco with a pretty large portfolio of assets, we realized that if we could bring in partners to help us, that would greatly sort of assist us in our exploration efforts. So we spoke to Rio initially about a year ago, and then sort of came to the agreement in August of this year, where we sort of announced that we'd entered into this earn-in joint venture. And then last week, we completed the due diligence checks with Rio Tinto. So that's all up and running and full steam ahead. And it's a great thing for us as well, because, 12 months ago, we listed onto the standard list. We moved up from aqueous. And so that process of producing the prospectus was a health check on the company, because it was, extremely deep dive due diligence into the company. And now we've gone through that again with Rio Tinto, going through the company and their due diligence process. So it's great, it's a clean bill of health for the company.
So would you say that the Rio Tinto deal is future-proofing the finances of the HCK site and development there, or is it future-proofing the finances of Aterian PLC overall?
It's certainly going to help the company. As part of the deal, we get some cash on onto the kitty. But in terms of the project, yeah, they've committed to a $7.5 million exploration spend in 2 phases. Phase 1 for 2 years, and then a subsequent phase after that. If they proceed through phase 1, they'll get 51% of the joint venture, and at stage 2, 75%. So we retain a 25% interest with our local partner in country. So that in itself is a very attractive proposition for us. The cash element, it helps, of course, but it alleviates the headache of running field teams on the ground in Rwanda on the project. And the benefit of having someone like Rio Tinto is that they have access to technical skills and expertise that is beyond our reach at this moment in time. And also it's a great story for the country.
It certainly is. I'm just wondering, in terms of the finances that you have now and the finances coming in from the Rio Tinto deal, how are you apportioning that money? Because we haven't discussed the assets that you have. What do you have, and what stage of development are they at?
Well, in Rwanda, we've got the asset that's been under the JV with Rio Tinto, which we call the HCK license. So that's kind of taken care of. We have 2 other partnerships in country where we're just waiting for the licenses to be renewed. Rio Tinto have the first option to take those and bring it into their sort of portfolio in Rwanda when those come through, and we're optimistic that one of them, certainly by the year end, will come, be issued by the government.
So you mentioned the government there. How would you describe Aterian PLC in terms of its ESG credentials, the relationships that you have with the environment and the local populations?
I would say it's very good in Rwanda. It's something that we're very conscious of and work towards. In the last couple of years, it's a sort of sector-wide drive towards ESG and improving that side of the business. We're engaged in a number of different projects out there, particularly with the water, providing fresh water, whether we do it through a scheme that we were involved with in the past, which was solar paneled water purification plants in schools, or we provide water tanks so that the schools can collect the rainwater off the roof so they have clean water for just working in the kitchens, cleaning plates and so on. An example is like last weekend in Rwanda, the team on the ground in partnership with Rio participated in a tree planting exercise on the HCK project, where we've donated, I think it's 2 fruit trees to every household on the license, and a range of other species of tree for just planting to avoid soil erosion. So we're keeping busy, and we're trying to be very active in it. This year rather, we engaged an independent company called Mandalay. They focus on the social license and a whistleblowing impact of the company, and they run their process through mobile phone app, so it's quite good. So we had 300 odd villagers participating in the program, and so they can then report back to Mandalay on how we are performing as a company in country, and it's excellent feedback that we get, and so far we're doing very well. One of the things that we're trying to do in Rwanda as well is look at the trading opportunity within the country. So we have a trading license that was issued by the government, and that allows us to buy in third-party mineral concentrates, and then we can sort of sell to either international buyers who are based in Kigali, the capital, or we can export it to refiners ourselves. But to activate that process, we needed to get ourselves something called the ITSCI membership. And so that's the International Tin Supply Chain Initiative. That took a long time as well. That was like a year-long process to gain membership. And that was another sort of audit on the company in general. So we have that in place, and we have now on our website a whole range of different policies that people can access and see, so that we're trying to do the right thing.
You mentioned your website there. Your website has a future acquisitions tab. So hope springs eternal. Where are you looking at, and what are you looking for?
Well, one thing that myself and Charles, the chairman of the company, don't want to be is like a one project company. And you have to, in the junior sector in particular, you have to be fairly fluid and dynamic in your thinking and the opportunities that present themselves. So we are appraising different scenarios. What we're particularly keen on is It's projects that potentially are small, overlooked, but have the potential that can be turned into a production unit in a short space of time with very little capital. Now, they're not going to set the world on fire in terms of their revenue, but if you had something that produced $100,000 or $200,000 a month, that greatly assists us. And that was kind of the logic and the thinking that we had about establishing the trading side of the business, was to try and generate a bit of revenue so that we could self-fund part of our exploration efforts in Rwanda or in Morocco.
So you, Mr. Bray, and the rest of the board and management, are you in alignment with shareholders?
I think very much so. You know, when Charles came on board with the company and moved away from Nigeria, he came and brought in a bunch of new shareholders. So they have been extremely supportive through the whole process, through the acquisition of Morocco, the move into sort of the Rio Tinto joint venture, and that sort of model of having earn-in partnerships with people. And they've been incredibly supportive.
Very good. Right. So you listed on the standard section of the London Stock Exchange last October. Here we are, 1 year and a bit on. What can we expect in terms of the news flow over the next 12 months?
We will be putting out news on a regular basis from Morocco. You know, we've got the 17 projects out in Morocco, covers about 60 licenses, targeting primarily copper and silver. We've identified 4 what we'd call the key projects. Because we're a small company, you know, we can't cover 17 projects in one go. So there'll be news flow out of that. We are very keen to see if we can pursue a similar model to what we've done in Rwanda with Rio Tinto in Morocco, because of the extensive portfolio that we have. And I think with Morocco, you know, the commodities that we're looking at are attractive to people. You know, they've got the long-term fundamentals. You're sitting in a great location there that you can potentially find deposits of scale. You know, with the lithium pegmatites in Rwanda, they tend to be quite small. But in Morocco, you have that scale opportunity. We've got a couple of projects, one called Tate and another one, Azra, which are located about 50 kilometers away from a management development project called Tate. That's got 56 million tons at over 1% copper. We've got another key project at Agders, and 14 kilometers away, there's a deposit of 50 million tons at 1%. So we're close to good assets. We're in the same geology, same sort of geological setting. And so, you know, the data that we see so far, particularly out of the Tate project, which is a sedimentary-hosted copper, where we recently announced that we had a sample at 7% copper, I think are really exciting opportunities, and they are potentially large. You know, Tate, we've traversed along, I think it's about 16 kilometers of the sedimentary unit. We've still got another 25 to go, which we haven't looked at yet. And along that 16 kilometers, we're seeing copper mineralization throughout most of the key target bed that we're looking at. So I think it's a great opportunity. And, you know, I'm lucky because I'm actually heading down there again next week. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Right. Well, I look forward to the update after your visit. Thank you very much indeed. Simon Rowlinson, Chief Executive of Aterian PLC. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.